All right, so we've got a new tournament here. So we got the Blast Off tournament starting tomorrow. And I thought I'd put together, I'd do a little practice round and do a walkthrough. We'll do a scouting report, practice round all in one. So not sure how long it'll take. As Dale Appleby will say, only Ott can spend 30 minutes talking about a par three. So let's check it out. Hole number, let's make sure it's in here, and I'm sure it is. So let's enter practice. We will go in and get her done. Get her done, get her done, get her done, get her done, get her done. Enter. Yes. Yes, I want to enter practice. And let's see what we got going. Let's see what the first hole is. What is hole number one? Hole number one in this tournament, and let me write this down. It's the Blast Off tournament. Blast Off. Tourney. All right, so hole number one is going to be hole number two. Now, we just got done with the Albatrossable 9-hole cup where it was all par fives. And there was serious opportunities on every hole to pick up an Albie. And this tournament right here, these holes, this is going to be a super low scoring tournament. There are a ton of opportunities out here, and it's starting off right here on hole number one. Now, the two lines that are on here, first thing we got to remember about this course is this is an old course. This course has been out since the very beginning of the game. All these holes are original holes in the game. And so when you've got greens that are original holes, like nowadays when they come out with a hole, you've got a green, you got a flagpole, and you're over here on the edge of the green. It may be a max overpower putt, but you can get to the cup. On these older greens, if you're over here on the edge, you might not be able to get to the cup even in a max overpower shot. And there are several greens in this course that are like that. And by several, I mean a bunch. And this hole right here is definitely one of them. So there are two ways to go. The safe play is going to be going on the white line and then coming at the cup. And from where the cup's at down here to where your landing spot is up here, you're definitely uphill. So there's definitely going to be an adjustment coming back down to the cup. I haven't taken the shot in so long that I'm not sure what it is, but it's got to be at least 15-20%. But you'll have to work that out with your clubs too. So if we've got a due headwind in this situation, it may be a little bit more, or it may be, depending on which way the wind's blowing, you'll have to kind of chase it around a little bit. My goal on these types of holes is if you can get on a par 4 and 1, let's get on a 1. And you do that by using the yellow line. Now, there are some big risks here. So the way that it comes out, I know that on the drive in the past, it seems like I've always done at least a plus 10 on the drive. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Maybe. I missed my opportunity. Oh, yeah, that felt so good. Oh, my gosh. I need a cigarette now. Whew. Ah. All right. So when you're playing over into this area, you don't necessarily have to bring out a bigger ball. I mean, obviously, if you're playing with a power 3 ball, it's going to help you get out into this zone to get onto this. If I can get my freaking pen to work, get onto this island. The deal is controlling it when it gets over to the other side. Because if you chip it up and you just end up right up here, it's a pretty difficult chip to get to the cup because the flagpole is sitting on a hill and it's flowing down like this all the way to the cup. And so it can be one of those things where you're close enough here where you think to yourself, hey, wind's not going to be a factor on this chip shot. And you aim it straight at it and you hit it perfect. And then it misses on the right-hand side. And it wasn't because of wind. It was because of the terrain. It was because of the slope. So as the ball's slowing down to go to the cup, it's breaking more to the right because of the way that the green's set up. And it's super easy to get off here. And if you're on the green and you're not close to the cup, you're in trouble. You won't be able to putt it to the cup, especially, and my issue on this hole, where I've screwed up more often than not, is on the backside. Like I've been in the water a few times, but that was a long, long time ago when the hole first came out and really just trying to go for it. But This is a risk where you can get out of bounds. But what it can do on this green is it can catch that slide where it looks like everything is good, but then it rolls and it ends up, when you're on the other side here, it's very easy to end up rolling off into the rough. And so you can have a perfect shot that went right by the cup, bounced off the flagpole, and then kept going and ended up in the rough over here. It's very easy to end up on the backside. I've had to take a lot of those putts that I'm talking about, and it doesn't look like from here to the edge of the green that it's that far, but it is a max overpower putt. So here what we're really going to want to work on is our topspin to make sure that we get the ball like we want it. And so with variable wind, it might be one of those deals where even though you can do it with a power 3 ball, I personally don't like hitting off of these types of islands. It's pretty narrow here with overpower. So if you've got wind that you can work out and you're doing overpower, you can make your shot pretty consistent on the other side. But you start getting headwind where you're already at your red line, and now you're hitting against the headwind. How it rolls out on the other side is going to be different. So it might be one of those holes that if you've got the ball inventory, for those of you that have the ball inventory, is to bring out a bigger ball so that every single time you work the wind out. So let's say your red line was right here with a 4 and you were able to get up in the front. I can't remember where the red lines are. I think the red line with the 3 power ball is back in this area. If I'm not, it might be. I think it is. But finding out where your red line is and bringing out a big enough ball so that you can... So let's say you brought out a power 4 ball. Instead of being at max club, maybe you're at like plus 12. And so it gives you enough room forward that you could work out headwind and you could work out any kind of wind that's out there so that every single time on the other side, your shot's the same. Whereas you could come out here with a power 3 ball and you could go, okay, this is what I do with a power 3 ball. And then, hey, we're getting bad wind. Now I'm going to need to bring out a power 4 ball, or now I'm going to have to do overpower. And I will tell you, you want it to roll out on the other side towards the cup consistently. Because this is a serious opportunity for us to start the tournament off with an eagle. And we want to make sure we can try and standardize this hole as much as possible. But I'm going to be working on the yellow line all week. I'm not... And this line right here, I've hit a ton of eagles on this hole from the white line. But if you can get on a par 4 and 1, it is worth the effort to try and get on in 1. I mean, think about in your game. If you could make this shot 50% of the time, or could you get on more often than 50% of the time? So if you hit perfect all the time and you've got your numbers worked out, you're going to have to take this shot. But if you make it on this shot, you're on the green. I like the green. All right, hole number 2. Hole number 2 is hole number 5 in Golf Clash Notebook. Okay, there's several par 3s here. Of the par 3s that are in this, I've probably made more hole-in-ones on this hole than the other 2 combined. And still I've made more on this. There are several different ways that you can go at it other than the white line. There is a rough bump that you can do here, but it's not... I've had a lot of success on this white line and where we're doing the bounce over the sand. If you look, it's kind of hard to see it right here, but you can see there's a little mound right here. And I have had a lot of, what I want to do is I want to engage this mound, and there is a funnel here. I've had a lot of shots. If you're in the right spot, and even if you hit it especially great on the right, it will tend to roll down to the cup. And there, you want to engage this hill and then bring the ball back down to it. It's very, very easy on this green to overhit it. And if you go past the green with any speed at all, you could very easily find yourself way down here in the bottom. And either a very difficult putt coming up, or you could find yourself off the green. And from this area, it's a pretty, because of the way that the terrain is on the green, it's a pretty difficult chip. But it's very easy to end up down here on the backside. So watch yourself when you're coming here. If you come in at it and you're putting on this kind of movement, and you blow past it, it's very easy. This, you can see kind of there's a little shadowy area here, and it's all downhill from here. I've been down in this area quite a few times as well. I've been back here and I've been here, and it's not It's not where I normally end up. I normally end up right around the cup, but you do not want to be off. And this is another one of those holes that if you've got one of these really long putts, it can be very difficult. I believe there is a rough bump here. I was playing about a year or so ago. I was playing with one of my buddies, Hammer and Hank, and we were playing these holes. And it seems like he was doing a rough bump from this area. And the other hole he was doing a rough bump as well. I like the white line where I'm just bouncing over the sand, trying to engage that hill. There's a funnel right there. And if you can engage that funnel, you can get it to the cup. In the past, it seems like I've done like a 15-20% adjustment on here, so I'll kind of have to work it as the week goes on and see what the number is. But there's definitely an adjustment. You're way the hell downhill. Way downhill. I mean, when you go to try and work your adjustment from this area right here, your rings are going to be real small. And you're not going to be able to get close enough to them to make a super accurate adjustment. So, but of the par threes, I think this one is, for my game, this is definitely the one that I want to make sure I try. If I'm going to look for a hole in one, I want to get it on this hole for sure. Hole number 3 is hole number 9. All right. Me and this hole, the very first time that these holes were ever in a tournament, which was like, it was the Creepy Cliffs tournament. I came here, I got on, I barely missed getting an Albie. I mean, like back when the game first came out, you didn't rim the cup. You either missed the cup or you went in the hole. And I was like, on the course, I was less than the width of the ball away from the cup. And I pulled back to make my putt, and the hole started to glow, and I released. But the ball guide, I couldn't see the ball guide in front of the ball because it was so close to the cup. The hole started to glow. I figured it was in the hole, and I let go, and it rolled half the width of the ball forward, and I missed a putt that was 1 inch long. And I did not do it on purpose. And I can tell you it ruined my whole round. I mean, it like totally ruined. I couldn't get over it. Normally I just like blow it off and just go on to the next hole, but I could not get over it. And this hole just literally ate my lunch. There are several ways that you can go at this hole. So in my opinion, let's talk first about the yellow line. In my opinion, I have seen more people end up in the drink on the yellow line on this hole than probably any other hole in the game. And I'm not going to take the yellow line. It's not that if you can hit it and you end up in the fairway over here, you are definitely in the catbird seat. And any numbers that anybody tells you as far as like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to do a plus whatever on this or a minus whatever, or this is what you do. Where in the hell are they hitting from? Are they hitting it from here and then trying to get on the green? Did they make it over on the yellow line and they're here? Did they come here and then they laid it up here and then they're going for it? Which one of those spots, where are they? This side over here, this goes uphill. Like when you hit it down the thing, it's going like this up towards the top. And so if you're way at the end, what you might do is going to be different than if you're back just a little bit. Okay, so this area here is pretty flat. This area out here is pretty flat. So these might be similar. But if you're in one club here and another club up here, then you're definitely going to have to make a different adjustment. So all of these holes, you'll have to figure out some of that. You can start off with like some base numbers and say, hey, look, we are going to make an adjustment on this hole. But you're going to have to figure it out for your clubs and where you're landing consistently. That's why it's so important to try and pick consistent landing spots. On this particular hole, if you're trying to take the yellow line, your landing spot on the other side is going to be either, in my opinion, most of the people I see are either in the fairway or they're in the drink. And so you may be here or you may be up here, or so your landing spot's going to be a little bit different. And so you'll just have to work it out. Every shot is potentially going to be different. I normally take the white line. And in the white line and the black line, you're still landing up in the same area here. And this picture doesn't show it, or that the white circle here is blocking it. But there is a shadow that goes out on the course. And it goes uphill until about right here. and then there's a plateau where it's fairly flat up here at the top. So if you're not quite up to the top of that plateau, your distance wise, if you're finding yourself consistently not getting the distance that you need to get up on the plateau, you're probably going to need a little bit bigger ball. If we have tailwind, you should be fine if you have a 3-power ball from here. But if you find yourself in this area on a regular basis and we've got a headwind, you're probably going to need to bring out a power 4 ball in order to get on in 2. If you're from this area, even in a headwind, depending on how big the headwind is, you might be able to get it done with a power 3 ball. And in most cases, you probably can. There's several ways that you can go at it. And I think let's talk real quickly about the black line. This black line is what we normally do in one-on-one. So sometimes in one-on-one, if you've got a tailwind and you're up in this area right here, you could go for it. Even with a lower power ball, you could go for it if you use the wind. But normally, if you've got any kind of headwind or side wind and you came here with a marlin or a lower power ball, you're going to have to lay it up and then go for it. In tournament time, this is why you save your power 3 balls, and you save... I'm constantly amazed at people going out playing even up to tour 8, 9, bringing out balls that are special balls other than, when you get up in tours, you may get on one of those holes where you need to bring out, in order to keep up with the Joneses, you need to bring out a Titan. But when you buy those balls, these are the types of holes that you bought those power 4s and those power 5 balls for, not for that one-on-one so you can go out there and win 100,000 coins or 1,000,000 coins. I mean, who cares? That ball can help you win a tournament or place higher in a tournament, especially on holes like this, because it is a long ways from here to get over to this area. A sniper, if you bring a big ball, like you bring a power 4, you bring a power 5 ball, and you've got the right winds, you can get over to this side right here. I find myself more often than not coming over to this side if you've got a sniper where you may be able to do a rough bump, where you're roughing it, you're trying to clip that rough and just roll out onto the green. My preferred way to come at this hole, actually with the second shot, is to use a Guardian, because a Guardian gives you several tools. It doesn't have a lot of topspin, so you're not necessarily going to be able to do a rough bump, but you could. If you get close enough to the edge, you just need a little bit to bounce you out, and then it can roll out on the green. The thing I like about a Guardian is that you can start off, because it has more distance than a sniper. You can start off where you're right here on the apron. There's a little bit of fairway patch here, and you're in this area, and you can come at it with backspin, and you can stick it up closer to the cup, and it gives you that extra raw distance. If you've got a headwind, one of the things I like about a Guardian is you can put the backspin on it, and you can max overpower it into that headwind, and when it hits the green, it's still going to stop because you put all that backspin on it. So this will be a hole that I'm probably going to... I normally play this with a Kingmaker, just because it gives you, and you don't really need the spin. So you can play it with a Titan, but trying to knock the wind down a little bit, especially if you've got headwind. And I normally use a Guardian on this, but we'll see as the week goes on. And this shot coming up here to the top is when you're going to have to work out. Everybody's got different clubs, and you'll have to work out how much topspin to put it on there. And I believe on the drive I was doing, what hole is this? Hole number 9? I think I was doing like a plus 10, plus 20% on the drive. There is definitely an adjustment you want to make on the drive. Faux show. And then the shot to the cup is really going to depend on where you're consistently ending up. Hole number 4 is hole number 6. All right, this par 3 right here, there is a rough bump that you can do. You can take the shot from here. You can take the shot. This is another one of those holes. You can see the shadow that's here where it runs along this. So like if you end up coming off in this direction at all, it's going to roll off pretty quick. And you could very easily find yourself off the green. It's another one of those holes that if you hit it past the cup, you're going to roll for a ways. Of the par 3s, for me, I've hit hole-in-ones on this hole, but I'm still trying to find the spot, a consistent spot for me. And I don't like the rough bump here. Taking this rough bump, this is the way that this rough bump looks. This terrain's not really doing it justice, where it's kind of a bowl. And so when you're hitting this rough bump, if you hit if you hit where you want, you're going to get the bounce that you want. But if you hit a little bit forward of that, you're digging into the hill and it'll kill it. And then it'll take a flat bounce coming up, and you can actually end up getting caught. You can hit in the middle of that rough and you can end up getting caught in that rough. And so it's one of those areas that I like rough bumps, but I don't like this rough bump. I'm going to take the shot from over on this side, trying to bring it around to the cup. And I've tried the shot from over here, trying to bring it this way to the cup. I've tried the shot in the middle, trying to bring it to the cup. This will definitely be a hole. I always like it when they show this stuff, and it's like, okay, here's the white line. You hit to this area, and then you can get to the cup. You could hit from over here and bring it over to the cup. You can pick the spot that you want out there, so find a consistent spot. I'll probably find a spot that's up in this area right here, because this goes uphill. This isn't flat down here, so it's kind of like this. And so trying to hit more up on this, trying to bring it around. And this area is why I'm inconsistent on this hole. Because when you're hitting off of this type of terrain and you're trying to hit this spot and it's perfect, if you over-pulled, under-pulled, didn't get the wind absolutely right, and you hit 2 inches to the left, how that ball bounces is going to be totally different than if you hit where you want it. If you're 2 inches to the right, it's going to bounce different. So it's one of those ones where you can get inconsistent results on the end. Even though you hit it perfect, you did the same adjustment, everything you thought was perfect, but it ends up having a different result on the other end because of how we're hitting it off. So I've hit it over here the last few times that we've had this hole in a tournament, and I'm always right there, but it's like I said, it's always inconsistent. It sometimes it'll go in, and sometimes but the majority of the time it doesn't. So I may find a different spot. I may try and come out here and find a flat spot. I don't know. I almost feel like on this hole I should just bring a backspin club and just start off on the green and try and dunk it. So this will be a hole that I'm definitely going to work on as the week goes on. This is why I have teammates, so I can pick their brains. And sometimes I will do what my teammates are doing, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? Especially my teammates that like to do rough bumps and stuff, sometimes they do those rough bumps in areas that are super dangerous, especially if you got somebody like me that doesn't hit perfect all the time. They can be super dangerous. So we'll see as the week goes on how this hole goes. Hole number 5 is hole number 7. All right. Now, all right. The white line. Let's talk about the white line. A lot of times in one-on-one, that's the way people are going to hit is they're going to go on the white line. And you definitely, the way that the green is here, I think if you hit it all the way out here to the back, you can actually take yourself out of the shot, depending on what club you've got coming to the cup. Because if you do the distance from here to the edge of the green, and then you come around, if you're coming at it from this side, your distance from where you can get onto the green to the cup is shortened. So depending on what club you have, it may be a little bit harder to set that shot up and get it to the cup. You should be able to do it, but you could find yourself, depending on your clubs, with a little bit more of a problem. Whereas if you had just hit it right here, even though you're just slightly farther away from the hole right here, if you do your arc, you're just slightly away from it. This shot right here is a straight up flat shot right to the cup. And so you can work it with any club and be able to go straight to the hole. I see a lot of people here really trying to get around the corner to pick up some distance. And you can. The problem is that where your bounces are at. So from the tee box coming out into this area, if you want to try and get around the corner, you're trying to get your curl to work in the last third of your shot, and your curl's going to be at its apex in the middle. So you're going to be out in this area, and it's hard to get way around the corner and end up there. Normally you can pick up a little, but you're pretty much going to be on the track where that white line's at. There's two other ways to go at it. And what I see most people do, and what I've done many, many times, is you're trying to land on this island right here and trying to get bounce number 1 and then bleed out so that you're literally right here in the front and you have a wedge chip to the cup. Even if you just clip this rough and you bled out right here, you still got a great shot. Anywhere from here, you got a great shot. There's another way that you can play this too, especially if you come at this hole, even with a power 3 ball. I think with a power 3 ball to get to this area right here, like where your red line is, you really kind of need some forward moving wind. If you've got a headwind here, you may not be able to reach this island with a power 3 ball. You may not need to bring out a bigger ball. Because it's not really an area, it's so damn small right there. It's not an area that's real conducive with hitting a bunch of overpower on. Because if you're just slightly off trajectory, it can cost you, especially if you're on this side. The other way that you can go at this too, especially if you've got a big topper, extra mile 9, you got an upper developed extra mile where you got more of that top spin, is you can start off over here. And if I can get my damn pen to work. Oh, and now I got it up there in the corner. That's problematic. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I have to turn my device and see. Okay, I got the pen there. Now, where is it? Where's it at? Okay, so if you're down in this area right here, you can actually bring it around. And what I've done in one-on-one is you can come out into this area right here and you can try and bring it so that you do a rough bump off of this rough and then it just bleeds out. You can do it where you can come at it. We draw our line here from the tee box. So if you draw the line from the tee box to this area, you're going to be going off like this. So trying to bring it around here along the edge of those trees and clip that rough and just bleed out. And you can do that in any kind of wind with a power 3 ball. I think you can probably do it even with a lower power ball, like a power 1, maybe not. I think I started doing that shot because with a Marlin, I think you can do that shot from there. I'm not sure in headwind if you can do it or if you've got to use overpower, but you don't necessarily have to bring out a big ball in order to get this shot done. And it will put you in the same spot, really, as what you're going to get from here. So if you've got lower developed stuff, or if you don't have a ball inventory, or you got a bunch of balls that you want to burn, you could save yourself a ball by trying this shot right here. And try it a few times and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as far as trying to run your topspin out so that you can get a second bounce, rough bump, and then just bleed out. It seems like I come out more towards this area right here. If you hit anything great to the right, you're putting the trees and you're also putting it so that the ball has to run longer before it can get out of the rough. But there is definitely a shot that you can do from here, and I don't see a lot of people do it, but in one-on-one play with lower developed balls, that's usually the way that I go, because I would rather end up, I'm okay being in the rough right here. I want to get out here, obviously, but in those occasions that you get in the rough right here, you can easily recover. You can still make this shot. It's very makeable. This shot out here is going to be super consistent. You find a spot out here, you got really solid numbers as far as adjustment numbers, you can make this shot over and over and over again. So it just depends on the risk versus reward. I would rather get into a shorter club, but we'll see. I'm always going to go for the shot off of over here, trying to get up close. Well, I can't say always, but in my odd account, in my practice account, I don't have a lot of ball inventory, so I'm playing with mortal balls. And there are times where I'll have to take the white line just because I don't have the ball inventory. And that's one of the reasons why I started exploring on this hole, and I found this shot, because this shot I can take even with lower developed balls. Hole number 6. It's hole number 3. All right. We just played that albatrossable 9-hole cup, and I was like, before the week even started, and my buddy Kyle told me that there was going to be a 9-hole cup with nothing but par 5s. I immediately thought of this hole because I was like, there's no way they're going to have a 9-hole cup of all par 5s that are albatrossable and not put this hole in it. Because of all the par 5s that are in the game, I'm not sure I know another par 5 from the rookie tees that you have a chance for condor like you do on this hole. Especially now, because we have top spin boost balls. And so depending on which way the wind's blowing and your clubs that you have in your bag, you can get, I've been on the green and I've rolled right past the cup This is the closest that I've ever made a condor. It came and did the little loop-de-loop and ended up right here. It's the closest I ever came to a condor was on this hole. This was in one of the community cups, and that week in the community cup, I think I albied this hole every single time. It is a super albiable hole. That's why I was just amazed that it wasn't in the tournament last week. The white line, you can take the white line. And when I first started playing, and if you got really low developed clubs, when I first started playing it, what I would do, let me zoom in a little, is I would clip this rough right here. And this was a tricky ass shot. Damn it, my pen keeps moving. Hold on. I gotta get my pen again. Look at that. Freaking rookie. Let's put that sucker down here. Now I need to look at the hole. What the hell was I even talking about? Okay, yeah, here's what I was talking about. I used to clip the rough right here and then just kind of bleed out without getting caught in the rough on the other side, and just bleed out into the middle of this area, and then you can easily get up there. Made a bunch of albies here when I first started playing with the Horizon, because I played with the Horizon for a long time when I first started, because it had distance and topspin and it had a lot of stuff as you're developing your clubs. It's a great club. The green. This is on the flat down at the bottom. This is a hill, and everything's running downhill a lot. So if you're coming at it and you are landing on the island, you're on the blue line. I don't know why they have this dot right here. You're going to land on the island. Getting from here, trying to bring it up towards the top, and then let it float back down to the cup. The white line, I never really took the white line when we first started. I played that line a couple times, but if you've got lower developed clubs, the white line can be very difficult. And you do need to get your ball on if you're taking it. It's a pretty easy shot to get out there. I mean, the fairway here is a mile wide, but during rookie, this area out here is going to be all spectators. And so if you get up on the tee and start hitting it off to the left-hand side, you're going to have a lot of pissed off spectators, because nobody's going to use that side. And if you see somebody hitting it over there, they obviously weren't trying to get on one. Obviously. My goal is to get on this hole in one. Depending on the clubs you have, you're going to have to dig through your ball inventory. I like to hit, if you look at the island, most people, when they look at the island to try and get the straight shot through the gut right towards the cup, they're using this as their landing spot. So if we kind of draw some lines here, they're using this as their landing spot, trying to bring it straight forward. I always like to try and come over here to the right as much as I can, because it gives me more, I can put more power on it. And if I have a tailwind or something and I didn't quite adjust it right, I've got a deeper area to hit into. But if you hit it out into this area, you're going off on this trajectory. You're definitely going to have to cover that gap with curl. An extra mile, about halfway down here, can cover the gap in curl. If you got an APOC, you can go all the way down to the end of this. And if you go all the way down to the end of that, the distance that you pick up here, this distance is going to pay huge dividends on the other side. And with the new topspin boost balls, we're going to see a bunch of condors this week on this hole. Now, let's talk about some bad areas. You can recover and you can make any of these shots from out here in the rough. I've been down in this area a lot, where I was like right down here at the bottom, hitting it up. That's just the way the ball, if I hit it great to the right, great to the left, ending up down in that area. One time on this hole, and this shot I really needed this shot. In that tournament, I was actually hitting down into this area. And I had been here and made it, and been here and made it. I'd been on the fringe and made it. And then when it really counted, I actually ended up on the green, and like I was talking about at the very beginning of the video, this is one of those holes that I couldn't reach the hole. I couldn't reach it. I mean, there was no chance, even max overpowered, spit, throw the ball, cuss, whatever. You can't get there. I mean, you're just not going to make it. And so this is definitely one of those greens. I think if you're up here at the top, it may show that it's not going to make it, but it's so downhill that I think that it would roll down to it. But if you're down in this area, down here on the bottom, or even over here on the other side, you do not want to be there. You want to be up here by the cup, because these areas, I don't think you can make putts. This is an old hole. You can't make those. We have a lot of opportunity on this to make some shots. Lots of opportunity. Hole, what was that one? That was hole number 6. Hole number 7 is hole number 4. I love this hole. We almost have to get an Albie here. There's a couple par 4s that I can think of. There's a par 4 in Sunshine Glades. I think it's hole number 1 in Sunshine Glades. Like, you have to get you have to get an eagle. I mean, there's just no two ways around it. If you don't get an eagle, you just drop the shot. This hole is almost, if you don't get an Albie, you're going to be down from the people at the top of the bracket. That's how important this hole is. Hole number 7. And on the drive on that one, I've been doing a plus 10% on the drive, but I'm not worried about any percentage on the other side. I will tell you that there is. If you're not on the green and you're up in this area and you're hitting it down, if I remember correctly, we were actually taking some wind off. But it is a tricky shot if you're up in here. And if I remember correctly, it was like we were taking off like 5 or 10% on our shots on the second shot. But what percentage you're going to do, or if you do any changes at all on your second shot, is really going to be dependent on where you're trying to get to. Hole number 7 is hole number 4. All right, of the par 4s that are in the game that are albatrossable, this is probably one of the easiest. I have never hit a hole-in-one on this hole, this par 4. Maybe. I'm trying to think. I think I've hit 3 hole-in-ones on par 4s, and I might have hit one here in a practice round, but I don't think I've ever hit one here in tournaments. But I've got teammates that have, like, they figured it out, and like every time they came here in tournaments, they were getting hole-in-ones. This hole is definitely hole-in-oneable. And this hole has been changed. Some of the changes that they've made on these holes since the game came out is, this is the fairway. This is the first cut of the rough. This is the second cut of the rough. This is the third cut. It used to be if you were outside of the second cut of the rough on this hole, you were out of bounds. And so it's this hole was super narrow. Okay. Now the out of bounds is in the water. If you're in the rough or you're over here in the trees, you know, you're still in bounds and you still have a shot. But this hole, when it first came out, anything past the second cut of the rough, you were out of bounds. Now the shot here, you can take the shot if you bring out a big enough ball where you're starting off on the other side, depending on what clubs you have, and you can really go for it. I mean, like, really go for it. Or you can try and bounce it over and try and get the run forward. But really, if you're trying to go for the shot, you're going to start off on the white line side. You're going to start off, here's where the fairway is at. You're going to start off in this area and try and bring it to the cup. It seems to me, in my memory banks, that the ball wants to roll off this direction, as far as like there's not on its first bounce, but somewhere in here in its second or third bounce, it takes a little bit of a hop. So it'll be one of those things we have to work on, as far as like how much topspin, or if we're doing overpower, or what ball. There are so many variables here that you can't say, well, this is how you do it, because everybody's got different clubs. Everybody's got different ball inventory. You may have somebody that's got lower developed clubs, but they got a bunch of power 5 balls, and they come out here with a power 5 ball and they can get on one. You got somebody that's got upper developed clubs and they don't have any power 5s, and they come out here with a power 3 and they can still get on. And so, but what they have to do to get up there is different. But I will tell you that you need to get on this, because this is another hole that if we don't get an eagle, we're going to drop a shot. You don't want to be out here trying to take this shot to get to the cup. The green's flat. And this is also a big green too. If you're way off the green, you can have some flat shots going to it, but you could find yourself, especially if you're down here on the lower side, with some pretty long putts. But this hole is one, if you're focusing on holes, like if you're making your notes and you're like, holes that we're going to have to get, this hole right here, you need to put 3 stars on it. You have to get an eagle on this hole. Just no two ways around it. That was hole number 7. Hole number 8 is hole number 1, the island par 3. And this hole is different than when it first came out. When the game first came out, the way that the green is now is it kind of rolls off, and then there's like a little mound, and the flagpole's on that mound, and so when you're coming at it, when it first started, there was kind of a bowl, and the cup was in the bowl, so it was more of the funnel type deal where you could hit it a little bit great to the left or the right, but if you had your speed just right, you could get it to the cup. There is a little bit of a backboard here, and you can play that backboard a little bit, but the way that they've changed the hole now, the backboard is coming down onto this hill, so it's very easy for the ball to roll off to the left or the right. Traditionally, ever since this hole came out, even at the very beginning of the game where we didn't really think too much about elevation stuff, it was just, we were just starting to figure out some elevation. We've always done at least a +10. But it seems to me on this hole that I've done like the +10 because of the changes that they've made down in here. The +10 doesn't always work. And I think in one-on-one, in my memory banks, I've actually upped it to like a +15 because this hole is slightly different than it was when it first came out. This is a tough ass hole. In rookie, because of the winds that we get, this hole is it's pretty easy to get over there. It's pretty hard to screw it up. But if you're playing it from, especially an expert, I was on this hole one time in expert, and I think the wind was blowing in this direction, and it was like a 14-mile-an-hour wind. And it was so damn tricky to try and get, because when you're going over this chasm, especially with headwind, it is so tricky to get your ball over and right. And the wind was so bad that I laid it up right here, and it was in a one-on-one shootout, and I laid it up right there and challenged my opponent to do better, because I took the safe shot. I was like, dude, if you try and get on the green, you're gonna miss that shot. And I just laid it up, and they did. They missed the shot. They ended up in the chasm. Second bounce. This can be a very tough hole. It's pretty straightforward, but we definitely want to make sure we work on our adjustment all week. From the Ricky tees, this hole is not as scary as it is from the upper tees. Especially, it's not necessarily from the tees. It's the wind that they will get and how the wind affects on this hole. It's very easy to end up in trouble. Very easy. I've made hole-in-ones here, but once they made the change and they put the tee or the flagpole on that mound, I've made a lot less hole-in-ones here than I did when the game first came out. A lot less. Hole number 9 is hole number 8. Oh my God. I lost a tournament. There's 2 holes in the game that I was on this hole right here. All I had to do was hit an eagle, and I win the tournament. That's all I had to do. Played this hole, I don't know how many times. I almost always get eagles on this hole. I mean, the non-eagle times are the rarity. And ended up shanking my drive and ending up clipping the cliff right here, and ended up in the drink and ended up getting a birdie and lost. This is the insult to injury. not only did I not win the tournament, but I came in fourth. So this hole right here, and it's pretty damn easy. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can go at it. You can try and get on. You can try and get up. I practiced a max overpower hook shot here not too long ago, where you're coming out into this area trying to bounce over to get up. You have no control over what it's doing on the other side. I found myself in this sand trap. I did end up about maybe 33% of the time where I wasn't in the sand trap, but the rest of the time it was a crapshoot on where I was going to end up. There is a max shot that you can do just coming down in here with a big ball, trying to bring it across if you've got a bigger extra mile, or even if you brought out a big enough ball, trying to do it with a big topper with running all the topspin out. There's lots of different ways that you could get aggressive on this hole, but this hole can eat your lunch, because if you're off, it could be bad. Being in the sand might be the best. Like, woo, I ended up in the sand, because that ball was going to go for a wild ride if it didn't end up in the sand. You can lay it up out into where the yellow area. If we draw a line here, if you're up in this area, which is where I normally shoot to, there's two areas here that I will normally shoot to. This area and over here where the white line's at, where you're trying to get up into the shadow. Those are usually the two areas, depending on how I want to come at the cup. So if you draw an arc here and you draw an arc here, you're definitely far deeper in. So you either need to bring out a bigger ball, or you need to bring out a bigger wood. And you can take exactly like the line goes coming up to the cup. And this green rolls off on the backside, and you can if you catch it with enough speed and you go past that hole, you gotta watch your topspin. You could very easily end up in trouble on the backside. You can take the island. What I find a lot of times at the island, and the island shot might be the best way to go at it if you're trying to get an albie. The deal with the island is that your second shot, your second bounce, is like literally right off the rough. So if you're dealing with this kind of wind or any kind of a headwind type of situation, and you don't pull it enough, it can push you back into that rough. If you're working here and with a tailwind and you overpull it, you're going to end up in the rough. So you really want to know what the wind adjustment is for this area if you're trying to come at it this way, because of where your second bounce is. Be very cognizant of where your second bounce is at, because it's pretty short. The way that the green is set up down here is, when it comes off of this, it's kind of a little mound, and then it comes up to the green area. So when you're coming up here, from the distance from here to the cup is pretty short. So you can't put on a bunch of topspin to lengthen out the distance from shot number 1 to shot number 2, because almost immediately after it hits the ground on number 2, you want it to start coming to a pretty close stop to get to the cup. And that's one of the things about this side over here, is it really depends on what clubs you have. If you've got upper developed clubs, you're going to have an easier time doing this than if you have lower developed clubs. You may find yourself in a little bit of a spot of bother over here, depending on what you have. The safer shot, if you're just trying to get up there, because I don't think of this hole as a super albiable hole. You can get an albie on it, obviously, but it's not one of those holes that it's like, hey, if I don't get an albie, my world's going to end, because you're probably not going to get an albie on it. Is taking the safer shot and coming at it from this direction. So normally, if I want to do the island shot, you definitely want to be more in this area over here. But I normally like to come at it on the yellow line, where I'm coming at it from this direction. And so I want to be right here in between. I don't want to be in between them. I'm not trying to bridge this gap. If you have a Spitfire and you're in this sand trap, you can recover. If you're out here on the tip of this one, you can recover. If you're back here in the back, it's going to be a little more difficult. So I don't normally try and get too greedy as far as like trying to make it through this. We'll have to see what the balls look like, because we have such a big ball inventory now, especially with the balls that are Power 5 balls, low wind, top spin boost. You got all of these balls that can do different things that they couldn't do in the past. And so there's areas like this where maybe you can get bounce number 1 and bounce number 2. you can bounce in front of this and then it'll go through. So we have some options with the ball inventories that we may not have had in the past. So some of these shots that it's like, hey, it's super dangerous to try and hit through here. If you can get a bounce right here and then the next bounce is on the other side, then it's not too dangerous to try and get through here because you're not rolling through it. So that just depends on what you have in your inventory. But if you're just laying it up, it's not too hard to get into that area. And on the drive here, let me warn you about this drive. And this is what happened to me in that tournament. Is this area right here where we're typically hitting from, it looks nice and flat right here. It is anything but flat. It's definitely rolling like this. And so it's one of those deals where you can pull your club back and your bounce goes like this. And then you push your club forward because you want to get more distance to this rough area. Because normally, I mean, think about how it normally works. We push it closer to the end of the fairway, then we can get more distance on the other side. We pull it back from the edge of the fairway, we're going to get less distance on the other side. But this is one of those areas that when you hit it here, it takes a flat bounce and it will go boom. And that's exactly what happened to me. I got too far. I did everything right, but I didn't take the wind out. I took the wind out, but I didn't take the extra wind out. And what it did was it pushed me over the edge. I was trying to hit here and it pushed me over the edge and I hit down here and it took a flat bounce and put me right into the bam. I'm screwed. Screwed. Now that I think back on it, I think I did. I don't think I ended up in the drink. I think I ended up in the rough right there. It was bad. And you can't recover from there. So if you're going to hit down into this area, realize that it's downhill all the way to that spot. And so if you get too close to that rough, you're going to take a flat trajectory and you could be in trouble. You want to be back a little bit. You'd probably be like 2 or 3 rings away from this transitional surface so that you can get the bounce to get over to the other side. Unless I can find some different thing and a bigger power ball is not going to really help you here unless you pull it to the right so that you can get more depth in your shot. So if your red line's here and you wanted to get more forward distance, you could pull it out into this area going forward, and then you could try and curl it to get it over to the other side. We have a lot of options on this, but I will tell you that even though we have a lot of options on this hole is dangerous. And so hitting it from here, getting out here, or just taking it out to the end and then just running it forward. You know, if you can consistently hit out here, and here is nice because you don't have to worry about this or trying to avoid the sand or trying to avoid this area. You just hit it out here and hit it straight to the cup. This is another one of those holes that a Guardian's not a bad club. It doesn't have topspin, but what it does have is it has some distance. And if you find yourself in a little bit of a spot of bother, you can do a max overpower backspin shot and stick it up by the cup. We have a lot of options on this hole, but this is a dangerous hole to end the tournament on. And like the last turn of the tournament I was talking about, it ended the tournament and you look at it and go, this isn't that bad. This is an easy hole. I get eagles on there all the time, and it can eat your lunch. All right, let's quickly recap here. So I'm going to go through them, and this isn't in the right order. I'm just going to go through this hole right here. Yeah, that's a birdie hole. This hole right here, we have a serious opportunity. Every hole in this game, this is just a normal -12 tournament as far as like minimum score. Like what you need to focus on at the beginning of the week is making sure that you can just get the minimum score. You need to get a birdie on this hole, and it's super easy to get a birdie on this hole. If you don't get a birdie on this hole, it's because you went over here and you tanked your drive, and you either ended up in the drink on the drive or you overshot it and ended up there. If you can't make a birdie on this hole, you should. But this hole is super eagleable, especially on the yellow line. So when we think about shots we can pick up, there's one shot right there that we want to focus on as the week goes on. We want to nail this shot down. All the par 4s. This par 5, and we almost have to get an Albie. But this is definitely an eagleable hole. Where you will get in trouble here is if you overshoot on this island and you end up in the drink. And I've seen people come out here when the wind is right, trying to bounce it all the way over to the other side and catch it over here. And you can't if the wind is going right and you've got a big enough ball. It's possible. And then you can just, you're right there. But most of the time, people are going to hit off this island, and where you can fail is you end up too far back on the island and it didn't make it all the way over, or you missed the front, you didn't calculate for the wind right, and it carried it too far, and you actually just overhit the island and went right into the drink. I've ended up in the drink over here quite a few times where I came in and I shanked the shot. I was doing a max overpower shot and ended up hitting it to the right, and off of this island it goes, and it's gone for a wild ride. Definitely have, there's two right there, two shot. I mean, really, we need to pick up, we need to get the Albie on this hole. But it's definitely a hole that we can pick up a shot. So there's two. We've got to pick up this one. I mean, we got to get an eagle on this hole. And like I said, this is probably the most hole. This is the most hole-in-oneable par 4 in the game. There's another one we played not too long ago that's pretty hole-in-oneable as well. But this one here, it doesn't even matter which way the wind's going. If you bring out the right ball, you can get up there every time. So there's another hole we can pick up. There's 3. This hole right here of the par 3s is definitely, in my opinion, the easiest one to make a hole-in-one on. And as the week goes on, this is going to be the one I want to make sure I get my numbers right on, because this is going to be a hole that is really going to be hole-in-oneable. There's 4. This hole right here, it's all of the par 3s are hole-in-oneable, but this hole and the next par 3 are not my. I've made hole-in-ones, but they're just a little bit more difficult, basically based off of how the terrain is on the green. Another par 4 that we can get an eagle on. Now, this is not as a give me eagle like the other ones. Even if you hit it up into this area right here, you still got some work to do. But I'm definitely going to be going for up here because you got a much, much, much better shot. Hole number 8. Yep, this is the one we were talking about a minute ago, and this is just an eagle hole. This hole right here, this is also just an eagle hole. I mean, I've made a few Albies on this hole, but they are super luck. So as far as like holes that we're like really we need to focus on, I think there's 4 holes out there that aren't give-me's, but those 4 holes we almost have to get. So I mean, if you look at your minus 12 and you pick up those 4, you're at minus 16, you're minus 32. And as the week goes on, this is going to be one of those really low scoring tournaments. So work on those 4 holes and get with your teammates. I'll get with my teammates. I'll probably play some rounds with Kevin this week. Might get one of my other teammates and play some rounds with them. I haven't talked to Mike D, my clan president. I need to talk to him. Maybe me and him can play some rounds, or I can get Kyle out of to drop down to rookie for a while, and we can go out and play around. So I'll shoot some rounds as the week goes on and see what happens. Good luck to everybody. I'll shoot a practice round. I was going to do it right now, but I thought I'd just walk through and do a walkthrough. I'll shoot a practice round. I may do it tonight before I go to bed and post it up, but just some basic looks at the hole. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.